For Footballers Only. This is all about the beautiful game, football. On here, we talk to players before they become professionals. We talk to professionals, we talk to coaches, and we talk to fans of the game. We also cover hot topics and present our views on football news. For Footballers Only is brought to you by the DC11 Project. You can learn more by going to dcxiproject.com. NBA from somewhere and have the business acumen to run a sports program, but don't understand what it takes when it comes to football, right? Like world football, not American football, right? And so this is something that like keeps coming up, and for people like me that have lived this since before birth, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm constantly studying the best practices from around the world, but I'm also cognizant of context, right? So what works in London is not necessarily going to work in DC, but there are things from there that can help inform how we structure things in America that will make the best sense. But there's so many gaps. And the point you just brought up, like the academy starts at 13. So like up like to swim up that ladder to get to 13, you have to have so much development has to take place before you even. And then by and so that's why you see when I look at these MLS academies, like I even there was, I think 2 years ago when there was a tournament in either LA or Florida, and they play a lot of the European academies and the South American academies, right? So there was the Atlanta, like all the big MLS academies. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, it was watching different games being played. You know what I mean? Like, it was like the European and the South American kids are clearly footballers that have been developing football and have the football acumen and all of that in the American academies. And these were the best, like they have great athletes. Mm-hmm. And so we need to close that gap. And it really is just development. Like, I mean, it's not like, and you see it where, all the kids who can really play here, in America, by the time they hit 15, 16, they have to transition to Europe and get there, that to really get the development. And now we all share the Pulisic, the, Coleman, etc. You go down the line, everybody's, oh yeah, they're American. But why did they have to escape,
Yeah. I think I can add on that a little bit, Mike. I think with me, and it's always been in the game, the U.S. game or the MLS, the league is the financial backing of the league, right? You can't have good coaches to develop kids if they don't have the money to make a living. So I think that's the lack. We need more investors in the league, so we can have good coaches to get those kids at an early age. So I think that's what the league is lacking, is just having some financial backing, so that way, especially like a city like DC, there's so many talented players here, but a coach is not going to just do it for free, like how Open goes on right now. Not everyone can do it, right? But I just think that's what the league really need, is just that financial backing.
Yes.
To make it happen.
Yep.
So I mean,
I agree 100%.
No, Amir, like seriously, I think you should have, you already have in the door, so you should have this conversation with.
I would tell you my perspective, but finish you. Who do you think I should talk to though? Tell me.
Yeah, no. So I'm thinking that I think this would be a useful conversation to have with, say, directors of operations, at the various MLS programs, and really what you're presenting is that there's a model, right? Like you have a model, it's a nonprofit or it's a for-profit, and you get donations, and the programming you provide is subsidized, but from the kids and the parents standpoint, they're not having to put any financial backing, but your staff and team are compensated based on from
right,
etc. Right. Mm-hmm. So something similar where these various teams, MLS, like say DC United, let's use DC United as an example, right? DC United can put together a package from not even where they would themselves have to fund the money. It can be a package of donations from all the, the big corporations, Target, Walmart, Boeing, etc. Like throughout that are stationing in each area, right? So for DC, all the major corporations is based here. Atlanta has a bunch, Coca-Cola, etc. And they can start like what I envision is everything from facilities, right? So creating, because this is a big part of development that we, like the lack of, fields,
Yeah.
and everybody scrambling for the same field, and it's difficult. DC. Yeah, it's difficult for the smaller programs to compete with the giant legacy programs because they're bigger and have more money, etc. Right? So if there are more facilities, there will be less of a fight. Less of a fight. And these could be branded facilities. These can literally be DC United has, the DC United Field in Ward 8, the DC United Field in Ward, and you have small pitches, big, like this is this is not more than, I don't know, 2.5 each, a project. Right. Okay. So that's just.
But I would say within, you gotta think. So United and other clubs, but United, they're not as forward thinking with their investments and even how they approach their academy, and that's going back to what James said.
But that's how you
somebody.
So you can sell it. I mean, I can come along. We can sell this, right? Because the sales is that there's a return on investment that's substantially more than what's being put in, right? So I'm not even so that. there's the immediate, which is the brand awareness, right? Yeah. From ticket sales to jerseys to all those kind of things. But then we can also put in a structure where, similar to what everywhere has in Europe or Latin America, South America, where these young players, right? So the baller at open goal or DC 11, right? That's covered by the DC United funding or whatever it is. Built into the contract, this baller, 10% of their contract when they get sold to Bayern Munich or PSG or whatever it is. And these are like, we know what the numbers are on these contracts. These are not like, right? So
what if we had what if we developed our own players and we sold them ourselves?
No, we're doing that. We're doing that.
Without DC United.
Yeah, we're doing that. But that's what I'm saying. Like, what I'm saying is we're doing that already, right? Like, I mean, you know.
I hear you.
Yeah, right? So the thing is, we're going to, like, I say this all the time, like, I'm telling you, and I tell everybody this, the first 7 batch of superstars that come out of, like, our universe that we're touching is going to change. It's going to be like Fab Five when Fab Five hit the Fab Five, Michigan, when they hit the college basketball, how it just changed the game from like culture, fashion, all of that. Like, it's going to be a game changer because, and what I'm saying is, so this is what I'm saying, like, we need to have this conversation with these MLS because they don't realize the talent that is being fostered. And the thing is, the channels to go to Europe or Latin America, etc. In the past, there was asymmetry, there was information asymmetry, right? So you really had to know someone, and someone had to, like, do all of this. Yeah. Now, those things have been, like, it's not the same, right? So we all know the power of social media, which is, one thing, just in, publicizing someone's talent or whatever it is and reaching out to different people. But there's also the networks that have been formed even pre-COVID and then COVID just exacerbated this, right? So there's
Mhm.
the networks that have been formed with like, like me. There's people in every European country that like we connected with during COVID that would have never had, like, like, and it's just, so what I'm saying is, like, now there's not a need, like, that with the, say, the professional route, the DC United, MLS, etc., like it was pre, maybe 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so it would be of best interest to the MLS to really tap into these youth development programs that are in their cities, et cetera, because this wave is really just going to skip them. It's going to be like, you're going to have Open Goal, DC 11, like, a bunch of like programs that nobody really heard of, sell 2 or 3 big time players. And now these are multi-million, $100 million programs right in your own backyard.
Yeah. I'd rather that happen. They're good. We don't need to give them anything else.
I think that's the best way to go. Yeah. You have control over it.
They don't seem to want to do it. So
yeah. Okay, all right. I mean, this is a PSA. They're gonna see this because Amir is on this. So MLS, whoever, anyone, at any team, you're welcome. Get in touch with us. You go hit the DC United, DC 11 Instagram is DCXI Pro. DM us, DM Amir, or talk to him. When you see him somewhere, and let's have this conversation, because this bus is gonna miss you, and it's gonna be a sad day. It's gonna be like, it's gonna be very sad. It's gonna be, it's similar to the way the conversations about, like, everybody complained about, like, all the African players playing at the, the various European countries. It really started in the mid 90s, like the France national team, right? It was all that won the World Cup. But you just go down the list. So it's similar, because all those African countries, and even till this, I mean, they're doing a better job now, had the opportunity to build the infrastructure and have all those players come back, and play, and then win and give the glory to their native country. But they all went, they weren't doing this, so the players play somewhere else. They won, became superstars, etc. And then, they're just complaining. There was a bunch of complaining, in all the especially the West African states for a long time. And so this is the same thing. So I'm pleading to you, MLS teams, take this seriously. Let's have this conversation. I can get you in touch with a lot of, the youth developers in the DMV, in LA, Atlanta, etc. Let's make this happen, because this wave is going to blow past you, and you're going to be in a state of shock.
And I think, to add on that too, Mike, because you're saying how the French player went to, the African players went to France and stuff like that. Yeah. And then the African nation they didn't understand how good it had it. But to now, I think we have the education, so we're not going to fall for that trap. Exactly. We're going to make sure we develop the players, and then DC United is going to run and come get all Manchester United. Yeah. Because we, like Amir said, like, they don't want to do it. I mean, I don't think they want to do it, and I think it's a business. You know what I mean? And then
the price is going to go up.
Yes.
So I mean, we're gonna have to raise the price. Like, it's gonna be more expensive in the future than getting in now. Is essentially what I'm saying. So, definitely. All right, I mean, we can have that conversation.
I have two questions for you, real quick. With the Open Goal, so if a kid is interested into Open Goal, do they have to be in DC, and then how do a kid sign up for it?
No, so you don't have to be in Washington DC. Our programming is pretty much, our training sessions are in DC. Okay. Pretty exclusively, but we do have scrimmages and games outside the city. So that's, we're open, and we hope to capture people who can make it, if they're not from city limits. Okay. And then if you are interested in our programming, suggest you follow us on social. Our handle is @Open Goal Project. we will post any of our, or a lot of our upcoming events and programming there, and also on our website. And you can also sign up for our newsletter and to get like programming information on our website. So opengoalproject.org.
Cool.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you didn't talk about this, but something else that Open Goal does, which is good, is the Play ID sessions for college.
Yep.
So follow Open Goal Project online, so you can definitely get notification when that's taking place, especially for a lot of players that fall through the crack and still wants to play in college.
Yes. Yep.
What would you say has been your worst mistake as just someone involved in football? So it could be from a player standpoint or an administrator, coach, anyone.
I think just maybe as a professional footballer and as a coach entering, like, as a professional footballer, I was naive to some of the things and some of the like ways people try to undercut you. I reference like a family vibe and real team. Like when you're in college, it's like everybody's together. Once you're done with that, once you're a pro, everyone's out for themselves. And I didn't really understand that firmly until, I was a little too naive to see what was happening. And, same thing as a coach. It's just, then, I'm okay for it, but I thought that people would hear what I was saying about like equity and diversity and understand it and then react to it. But they pushed back on what I was doing, and tried to make me feel like I was doing the wrong thing, at times. So I'm saying within like, youth soccer and this pay to play construct, and, we've fought a lot to get here. So, but I was naive, like I said, and I thought that people would understand, so people will get this. Some people will get it, like we're talking about, but a lot of people, they don't get it or they don't want to get it. They don't want to understand it. So I'd say that's been my biggest error. I'm trying not to
say mistake.
Yeah, I give people the benefit of the doubt, but I try to, I've definitely learned a lot from those moments, and how to carry myself, and you play the game within the game, right? So
yeah. What would you say has been your most memorable moment as a footballer?
I played against Thierry Henry.
Nice.
And yeah, that was a trip. I never envisioned that. So I was playing for Montreal. We were second division at the time. It was a year before they went to MLS. We played Red Bull in an exhibition game. So I started, and they played their starters for 45 minutes. So it was one half. I marked him on corner kicks. He scored one, but he was offsides. I was like, thank God. He tried to make me once. I took the ball from him, and they printed a photo in the newspaper the next day, which I have, and I have the photo of that same photo printed. But so even when he came to the U.S., I will say this. First of all, nobody would understand how big this man is in person unless you see him, because he doesn't Have you seen him in person?
Yeah, I've seen him.
But he's like 6'4".
Yeah.
Wow.
But
And
when you watch
muscular.
when you watch him play in the Prem, it's like he didn't seem that big for some reason. Maybe just because
they
he's so fast.
No, because they're all big.
They're all just
yeah, like the Premier League in particular, like they're all big.
And it's yeah. So playing against any center back, yeah, he didn't look that big, but he obviously was over, bigger than me.
Yeah.
Like so that surprised me. And then his pace, even early 30s, he collected the ball once, and this is the photo that I have. And he like hesitated, maybe he like glanced like briefly one like away. And I wasn't sure what he was gonna do. But I didn't bite or do anything, right? And then he took a touch into space, probably like 7 yards past me, or like diagonally, but past me. And he just took off, and I've never like seen somebody change or experience that on the field.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I caught up, but it was clear that was a different level. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I was very, very fortunate to experience that, and it's hard to replicate a moment like that.
Did you talk to him at halftime or after the game?
I did not. So I had French teammates like in Montreal, right? So French Canadian guys, African guys, they were all over him. I didn't know French, I was like, I could go tell this man any range of things, but
he speaks fluent English.
I was just he was chopping it up, with some of the homies, some of the guys on the team, and I was like, you know what, like I'm not gonna insert myself. Yeah. So in that moment, I was like, I got the memory. I played against him. I don't need the selfie. Then the next day, it was the photo that came out was just me and him in the paper, and I have that shot, so that's kind of I have a couple of photos actually, because I was like hugging him on a corner kick.
You're like, it's going down.
You're going nowhere with that pace.
He still scored, though. He still scored.
Wow. That's a memorable story right there. I'll tell you.
Actually, you're the second person on For Footballers Only that have their most memorable moment is with Henry. The Cameroonian guy, the French guy.
Yes.
Yeah. Lionel.
Mm-hmm.
That's dope, man.
I was just lucky,
Yeah.
Lucky to right place, right time.
So quick question. I mean, this is just a random question. When you was playing on Montreal, did you play with Steve Giroux? Were you your team?
I did not play with Giroux in Montreal. I was after his time, but
okay.
We crossed paths. Never like I don't think we ever played for the same squad, but we played against each other enough.
Okay. All right.
So is he back in the area?
No, I think he's in Florida. He's in Florida.
Okay.
But, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good dude.
Yeah, he is.
So.
Yeah, the footballing community is small.
Very small.
Yeah.
Very small.
Amir, what would you say you want your ultimate goal as as really, you've transitioned from player, coach, administrator. So what do you want your ultimate goal and lasting contribution to the game to be?
So I would say I would want open goal and DCFC to, this is one of a couple things, hopefully, but first of all, I want to establish that there is another way, and to like not only establish, but really show people that like free programming and free soccer is the way forward. I don't care how people figure that out, right? But I want to prove that and firmly, like, you know, dispel whatever myths they have with pay to play soccer and whatever the culture is now. And then, and then I would also say I want DCFC to be here longer, way longer than I am. You know, I want DCFC to be a safe space for the community, right? Not just the kids, but parents, families, you know, and something that people can continue to build a positive football culture with, you know. So if we can replicate this model that we have in other cities, that'd be great, you know. But I think that would be the idea that I want to, you know, impress upon people, that, you know, it doesn't need to cost what it costs. It shouldn't cost that, and that the result that we get is going to be a lot better, you know, if we do it this new and improved way, you know. So, but that's how, like, no, that's how the world is playing soccer and developing talent. These kids are not paying money.
Yeah.
So if we're trying to catch up or be on par with the rest of the world, or the best countries, clubs, or however you want to call it, then that's got to be it within the first few steps. So,
yeah. Yep. Were you gonna say something?
No. That was it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, as you can see, we can go on for. Yeah. There's so much we haven't touched on that we even intended or said we were going to touch on.
I know.
Yeah. You know, and this is probably going to be the last question, just given time. But what do you think can be done? Or okay, what's your take on the idea of, you know, finding talented players, because, you know, currently there's a kind of like a tier system in youth soccer, youth football in the U.S., right? So the legacy clubs have, you know, like a B, C, or a red, blue, black. You know what I mean? They have like a million teams, and then they have like on their top team is where they just plug all these, you know, ballers from everywhere and put them on this team, and then they say, oh, they have a competitive program, etc. And what inevitably happens is that there's kids that get because it looks shiny and it looks like it's going to be a great opportunity, similar to, you know, even you, right? You got lucky, and so kids get put in that situation, but then their talent get extinguished essentially by the program and the coach, because they feel like an outsider. Their talent is not being developed. They get stagnated. This is a reality that I know because, you know, from 20 plus years of coaching, there's been a lot of kids that have been plugged and went to these places, and the kids, they grew faster and stronger, but didn't develop technically, tactically, and their passion waned. You know, like some of them. Now there are, you know, few that nothing could, you know, like nothing really can stop them. But you know, for the most part, this happens a lot. It's almost like, you know, it's the norm for a lot of. So what's your take on this, and how do we bridge the gap in, um, you know, this reality where talented players get put into these youth clubs,
Yeah.
but then on the back end come out just being, you know, their talent is never fully developed, uh, and sometimes they completely walk away from the game.
Yep.
So what's your take?
Yeah. I think it's a couple of different things, you know, but the more that we have our own systems, that can compete with those clubs, you know, then we don't have to send the kids there in the first place. I think that solves part of the problem. And then I think that our culture, the youth soccer culture and the way we ID players is a little bit lazy. Like, we just think that they're all going to be at the best club. Why? That's like, no club is going to serve every kid the best way, because every club culture is different. Even though, like, we don't really talk about that, right? Like, every club culture does have nuances and different things based on where it is, and, you know, all of that. So I think too much we're just in the mindset that, okay, I'm paying money. This is what I'm paying money